Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to Marathon Wednesday and in natural light. No artificial lights today. It's quite sunny outside. Cold but sunny. So today's marathon is another viewer's request. We're getting through these. And this one was for ex-member of Velvet Underground John Cale. John was born on the 9th of March 1942 and is Welsh. He obviously was a founding member of the Velvet Underground and went on to have very successful, and still, because he released an album last year, solo career. He's been working for 6 decades in the career, and he's gone from rock, drone, classical, avant-garde and electronic music. Now, John studied music at Goldsmiths College in London before relocating to New York City, where he met Lou Reed. So that's how a Welshman ended up in Velvet Underground. He was studying over there. He's worked with quite a few people as well. He's Stooges and Patti Smith, so he's been around. He's released 17 albums, so we've got quite a big one to do today, so we'll get cracking. So coming in at number 17 is the 16th album, released in 2016, and it's called M-Fans. Now this album features new versions of songs off an album from 1982 called Music for New Society. And so I'll just go run through the tracks, because we'll go through the tracks when it comes up to that album. So there's Prelude, If You Were Still Around, Taking Your Life in Your Hands, Thoughtless Kind, Sanctus Sanctities Mix, Broken Bird, Chinese Envoy, Changes Made, Liberty of Force, Close Watch, If You Were Still Around, Reprise, and Back to the End. Personally, I think this is a pointless album. They've just re-recorded. I don't know if it was a contractual thing or anything, but it has some nice little bit of piano that are different. But on the whole, it's just didn't appeal to me. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 2 out of 10. Okay then. Coming at number 16, we have the 12th album released in 1989, and it's called Words for the Dying. Now this album actually is more of an oral work, read or sung by Tyle. It was written in 1982 as a response to the Anglo-Argentinian Falklands War, using poems written by fellow Welshman Dylan Thomas, and it's got orchestral on it. So on here you got John Cale on vocals and piano, bass, organ, viola, and the Symphonic Orchestra of Popular Music, the choristers of the Llandaff Cathedral choirs on here. So again, I'll go through it. So the Fulton Suite, Introduction, There Was a Saviour, words by Dylan Thomas. Interlude 1, On Our Wedding Anniversary by Dylan Thomas. Interlude 2, Lie Still Be Calm, Dylan Thomas did the words. Do Not Go Gentle That Good Night, again from Dylan. Songs Without Words and The Carmen of Miranda. Okay, this is a very moving album. Some wonderful poetry from Dylan Thomas. It's very deep, and it's not an album you put on to listen to, but I can't deny that it is a very good listen, but it's not a musical album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4 out of 10. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, it's just not, it's something you have to sit down and listen, preferably under headphones. I listened to it under headphones and it was quite moving. Okay then, coming in at number 15, we go to the 5th album from 1975, and it's Slow Dazzle. On here, John Cale sings, does the piano, organ and clavinet. Jerry Conway plays drums on here. Pat Donaldson plays bass, Timmy Donald that does some drums, Brian Eno on synthesizer, and Phil Manzera on guitars. And then we've got Jeff Muldaur doing harmonies, Chris Spedding on guitars, Chris Thomas on piano, Steve Gregory on the saxophone. So the first track on here is called Mr. Wilson. I like this. It's a typical sort of 70s rock track. It's a nice vocal from John. I don't mind that track at all. Taking it all the way to the next one. Nothing wrong with this one except it sounds too much like the previous track. Then we have my favourite track on here. It's Dirty Ass Rock and Roll. Great little rock track. Some nice horns on here. It's a solid vocal from John. Excellent little track. Darling I Need You. Another little quirky number from John. Some nice sounds on that. Roll a Roll. My second favourite track on here is a great guitar solo. I think it's from Phil Manzera. It's the highlight of the track. Then we have this real naff version of Heartbreak Hotel. Probably the worst version of this song I've ever heard. We don't want to talk about that. Ski Patrol, It's Alright. Not very memorable. Not one of the memorable tracks off this album. I'm Not the Loving Kind. Some nice guitar bits on it, but it's a bit melodic and boring. Guts. Sounds too much like everything else. The Jeweler. This is just the wonderful weirdness of John Cale. Very disjointed. Very strange. Yeah, this is an album of two halves. The side one is really strong. Side two, not as strong. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 14 we have the 10th album that was released in 1985, and it's called Artificial Intelligence. John's doing vocals, bass, guitar, keyboards and viola. Dave Young is guitars, James Young is keyboards, Graham Dowdall on percussion, Jill O'Donovan backing vocals, Susie O'List on backing vocals. First track on this one, Every Time the Dog Barks. Some nice guitar work. Then we get the horrible 80s synth coming in. Yeah. Dying on the Vine, not too bad. There's not less of the cheesy synth in there. The Sleeper. I don't mind this. It's an interesting drum beat using the modern technology at the time, and it's got a bit of that 80s keyboard, but it doesn't spoil the track. Vigilante Lover, I like this. It's pretty good, although it's an 80s sounding thing, bit dated, but I think it is very good. Chinese Takeaway, and in brackets Hong Kong 1997. Strange track, not my cup of tea. Song of the Valley, very quirky track, not bad at all, good listen. My favourite track on this one though is called Fade Away Tomorrow. It has got some quirky keyboard in it. It's very sort of new wave, early 80s sort of new wave sound. It's pretty good. I like that track a lot. Black Roads, good track, great vocal from John. Satellite Walk comes next. I like this track. It's my second favourite on here. The guitar work on this is good. I get a bit of a mixed bag on here. It sounds very dated in places, but there are some nice little quirky tracks on this one. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5.6. Okay, coming in at number 13, we've got the 6th album from 1975, Helen of Troy. So John's doing keyboards and guitars, Chris Spedding plays the guitar, Pat Donaldson is on the bass, we've got Tim Donald on drums, and a certain Phil Collins, who celebrated his 73rd birthday, I do believe, yesterday. And Brian Eno again on synthesizer. We've got Alan Courtney doing the spoken word on Helen of Troy, and Robert Kirby who arranges the strings. First track on here is called My Maria. I love this. This is a really nice track. The backing vocals, which are by an uncredited singer called Lisa these a strike. Absolutely wonderful little track. Helen of Troy. It's got some great keyboards. I think Phil Collins drums on this. You can tell when Phil drums. It's really good. China Sea. Like this, it's a little quirky little number. Engine. It's okay. Very strange vocal from John, but that's John Cale for you. Then we have a little short thing called Save Us. I love the keyboard on this. It's rich. It's got that rich organ sound. Pretty good. And then we have my favourite track on this one, Cable Hogue. Great arrangement, gentle, and a good solid vocal from John Cale. Up next, I Keep a Close Watch. The string arrangement in here is really good. Great stuff. Pablo Picasso. Quirky. Love the guitar work on that one. It's a really nice track. Leaving It Up to You. They got a lovely combination of keyboards and guitar that sort of work nicely together. Then we have Baby, What You Want Me to Do, which is an old Jimmy Reed number, and they do agree that it's not a bad version of it. I don't mind that. And the last track on here is called Sudden Death. Very good, very psychedelic, very Velvet Undergroundy, and I love it. It's a great track. Really good album. Even though it's at number 13 in my list, it's a really good album. It's got some great stuff on it, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking at 5.9. Okay, coming in at number 12, we have the second album from 1972. It's called The Academy in Peril. On here, we have got John Cale on bass, guitar, viola, Adam Miller on vocals, Del Newman on the drums, Ronnie Wood on the slide guitar on the Philosopher, Legs Larry Smith, yes, that Legs Larry Smith from the Bozo Dog Doodah Band on one of the tracks, and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra does a few bits. The first track is the Philosopher, the one that the slide guitar is done by Ronnie Wood, and it is fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Then there's Brahms. There's some nice piano playing from John on this. It's not too bad. Then Legs Larry at Television Centre. It's strange. And Larry is doing this director thing. It's straight off the Bozo Dog Doodah Band album, really. I like this. It's so funny. The Academy in Peril is the next track. Some more nice piano work from John. Intro, Days of Steam. It's okay. It's got some nice violin in it, and that's all I'll say. Orchestral pieces, Forced Balance and Captain Morgan's Laments. It's acoustic, it's dramatic, it's okay. King Harry, don't like this. It's two songs being played together at the same time. It doesn't fit. John Milton, very long, lots of piano on it, not brilliant. Okay, this is a strange album for me. It has got some really good stuff on there, but it's also got some strange stuff, and it's a bit of this, bit of that. It's a bit of a bitty album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 11, remember the M fans that came in. Now this is the album it came off. It was the 8th album from 1982, A Music for a New Society. So John does vocals, guitars and keyboards on this one. We've got Alan Lanier on guitars, David Lung on guitars and keyboards, David Lindstein on drums, John Wanderling on auto harp. We've got Mike McClintock on backing vocals, Robert Elk on the bagpipes, Pipe Major Thomas on bagpipes, Chris Spedding does a bit of acoustic guitar, and Rise Ishamani Cale on vocals as well. So we got Taking Your Life in Your Hands. I love this. It's nice, gentle. I love the vocal. Really strong track. Thoughtless Kind, a very strange track. It's got a funny keyboard sound on it. Then we have Sanctus Sanitas. It's just too much going on. It's disjointed. It's just too long as well. If You Were Still Around. I love the church organ on this. It's got that echo to it as well. It's very, very good. And it's a great vocal from John. Close Watch. It's a very short track, but it's my favourite track. It's got a very sultry vocal from John, and it's got some great piano work. Then we have this little minute thing called Mama Song. Nice short intro, atmospheric. And then next up is Broken Bird. It's okay. I find it a little bit dull, in all honesty. Chinese Envoy. It's got that sort of Chinese mystique to it. It's the guitar and violin combination that gives it that mystical East sound. It's pretty good. Changes Made, a good little rock track with some nice guitar on here. Good vocal from John. Damn Life. This is... It's all over the place. It doesn't do anything for me. Razor Salmon, Rimsky, Korsov, got very strange chat, speaking, got whispering. Ugh, yeah, it's a bit strange. Like most of John's albums, it's got some good stuff on, and it's got some really bizarre stuff on. This is where this one falls in. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.3. Okay, before we get to number 10, let's sip a coffee. Okay, coming in at number 10 then, we got the 9th album from 1984, and it's called A Caribbean Sunset. John Cale doing the usual, vocals, keyboards and guitars. Dave Young's on guitars. Andy Heerman's on bass. David Lynchstein on the drums and boom bands. And Brian Eno, it's got an AMS picture changer. Yeah. First track on here is Hungry for Love. I really like this. It's sort of that new wave song. So the bass line from Andy Heermans is pretty good as well. Experiment number 1, another strong track. Great vocal from John. I do like that. Model Beirut Recital. It's got that catchy sort of Stranglers Dave Greenfield keyboard sound on it. And I do like that. It's a really good track. The title track, Caribbean Sunset. Quirky piano on that, very good track. Petrorian Underground, I quite like the sound on this. It's very sort of 1980s new wave sound, very, very good track. Magazines, one of the weaker tracks on here, but it's still an okay track, it's not bad. My favourite track on this is Where There's a Will, quirky, punky, some keyboard running through it, very good. Then we have The Hunt, some really nice piano on this. It's definitely got that Stranglers sound to it, and that's probably why I like it. And then we get Villa Albini, again a very punky new wave sort of track. I do like this, it's a great track to end the album. This is a really good album. There is not really a bad track on here. It's very solid. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we get a 2005 now. And it's the Black Acetate album. Now on here, we have got John Cale doing the vocals and guitars. Herb Graham Jr. on drums and programming. David Levita on guitar. Natalie Porter does some backing vocals, along with Musique Galloway and Jasper Barge. We got Mark Deffenbaugh on guitars and banjo, John Cravosa on cello, and Dusty Boyner guitar. Joe Carnes on bass, Michael Jerome drums, and Charlie Champa on atmospheres, whatever atmospheres are. First track on here is called Out of the Bag. I love this. I love the pace of it. It's an interesting vocal from John, but it's very good. For a Ride. One of the best tracks on here. A sort of interesting vocal from John, but it's got such a catchy tune. You can't help but like that one. Brother man, it's irritating, irritable song. I just couldn't get into it. Satisfied, another quirky track. Got some nice keyboards on this, a real solid bass line. Then we have my favourite on here that's called Inner Flood. It's a very gentle song, nice melody, some nice little guitar work. It's a really good song. Hush, weird sort of tune, but I like it because it's different. Gravel Drive. I like this, it's got that ambience, it's got a very good vocal from John. Perfect, good little rock track this is. Some real meaty guitar riffs in that, and I do like that. Sold Motel, another good rocker with a great riff in it. Woman, interesting track this is. It's got one of them sort of modern drum beats, but with a good rock riff, and it actually works. I think sometimes if you program a drum properly, it does work, and it does actually work on that track. Wasteland, not a bad track. Good vocal from John. Turn the Lights On, raw rocker. It's absolutely plug and go rock, that is. It's a really energetic song. And the last track, the Mailman, the Lion song, quite apt, isn't it? Just a typical sort of last track on the album, nothing memorable. Very good album. It's got nice ambient songs on here with some really strong rock. Some of the heaviest tracks I think that John's done. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.6. Okay then, coming in at number 8. We've got the 13th album from 1996, and it's called Walking on Locusts. I hate this cover. It's got a few, lots of people on here, but some of the guests are David Byrne, Mo Tucker, David Soldier, BJ Cole and Eric Sanko. So Dancing Undercover is the first track, a real quirky little track. Got some nice acoustic guitar on this. You can hear the steel pedal of BJ Cole. It's really good. Set Me Free. It's got this Russian thing. I think it's to do with them strings. It gives you that Russian feel to it. My favourite track on this one is called So What. The guitar work is great, and it's a great vocal from John. Crazy Egypt. Not too bad. Not one of the weaker tracks on the album, but it's still listenable. So Much Love. A gentle track. Some great guitar, especially from BJ Cole. Tell Me Why. I love the percussion in this. It's just unusual, very good. Instinct Notion of Cool, another really good song with a very quirky melody. Then we get Secret Corridor, good vocal, excellent track. Circus. It's interesting, it's got a bit of Scottish feel to it in places, and some nice pedal steel. We've got guitar from Mr. Coles. Gatorville and Points East. Some really nice guitar work from BJ Cole on this. He is a great guitarist. The violin's pretty good as well, which is probably John. Some Friends. Guitar work's good. Lovely piano work on here. Entre Nous, a really strong track. A really enjoyable album, actually. I just, you know, it's got lots of influences on there, and I do like listening to this. It's one of them albums I keep going back to because I do like it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.8. Okay then, coming in at number 7. We've got the most current album that came out last year, Mercy. Collaborations again, lots of people on here to mention. So the first track is Mercy, which features Laurel Halo. Very ambient song. It's very in the vein of Velvet Underground. It's quite long. It's a little bit too long, but I do like it. Then we got Marilyn Monroe's Legs, Beauty Elsewhere, featuring Actress. Another ambient song, very ambient. Some nice effects on this, a really strong song. Noise of You. Very interesting vocal from John. Musically, it's really nice. Story of Blood featuring Way's Blood. Isn't too bad either. I think it's relaxing. It's got a nice ambient still to it. Time Stands Still features Sylvie and Esso. It's probably one of the dullest tracks on here. I'm not into it at all. Moonstruck, which is in brackets Nico's song. Really nice song. Like that song a lot. Everlasting Days featuring Animal Collective. Again, it's very not memorable. It just goes on a little bit. Night Crawling, good. I love this. Really good track. Not at the End of the World, ambient. Goes on a little bit too long. The Legal Status of Ice featuring Fat White Family. Too long. Very not very coherent. It's a bit of a mishmash. But my favourite track on here is I Know You're Happy, which features T-She or T-Shy. It's the best track on here. It's got a nice ambient and the vocal is fantastic. Out of Your Window. It's one of the brighter tracks. When I reviewed this when it came out, I wasn't very favourable of it, but I've now listened to it more. And although it has got some really dirty tracks on, the really good ones are really good. So I think I gave it a 4 or 5, but I'm going to give it now an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 6, we go to 2003, and this was his first album since 1996, and it's called Hobo Sapiens. On here is John Cale, of course, and he plays the keyboards, guitars, electric viola, and backing vocals. Andy Green does key guitars and samples. Eric Sanko on the bass, Joe Gore on the guitar, and Emil Milland on cello. So there's no drummer as such, it's all done on machines. First track is Zen. It's my favourite track on here. They got the drum sampling is really good. It's atmospheric and it's got a really good vocal from John on this. Excellent track. Reading My Mind comes not. I love the sound effects on this at the beginning. Some nice guitar work and keyboard going. It's a nice mixture. Very quirky song. Things. The song starts with some nice acoustic guitar and it sort of builds up and all the layers come in. Turns to be a really strong song. Look Horizon. The guitar work on this, it's got that, the guitars are set to this sort of 60s sound. It's really good. It's atmospheric. Absolutely really nice on that one. Then we have Marguerite, ambient. I love ambient tracks. Some lovely tones on the keyboards. Quite moving vocal as well. It's a good track. Archimedes, quirky, well structured, ambient, very good. Caravan's got this eerie sound to it, and it's John's vocal delivery that gives it that real eeriness. Bicycle, yeah, it's not the best track on the track. Oz Twilight Zone, it's got an irritating vocal. It really puts you off. And Letter from Abroad, I like this. It's got some nice sounds. The drum mix is really good as well. Then we have Things X. Very good track. Again, very good use of electronic and modern stuff. And the last track, Over Her Head, it's got some lovely piano. You've had all this electronic, and it's just a very simple piano with John singing. I think this is a really strong album. It's got that modern technology in there, and he's used it to his better than a lot of people can. He knows what he wants. I think this is a good all-round album, so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.3. Okay, coming in at number 5, this is the 15th album from 2012, and it's called Shifty Adventures in Nookie Wood. We've got John doing keyboards and violins and noises and drum programming. Dustin Boyers on guitars and synths and noises and tambo. Brian Burton, known also as Danger Mouse, on the bass. Michael Jerome Moore on some drums. Joey Mamba on bass. Dean Tony Parks on drums as well. Eric Sacanto also plays the bass. And Iain Cale, background vocals. So, I want to talk to you, which features Danger Mouse. Not the little cartoon character. That's who I think with Danger Mouse. I like this. This is the acoustic guitar. John's vocal is quite daunting, atmospheric. The keyboard and the acoustic guitar come through lovely on this track. Scotland Yard. Now, even though this has got some drum programming, it sounds good. It's got a great little bass line from Eric Sanko as well. Really is groovy. Hemingway. There's something about this. It reminds me of a cross between Peter Gabriel and 1980s David Bowie, and I like it. It's very good. Face the Skies, mostly drum programming it. It's all right. The keyboard line's okay in this one though. I do like that. My favourite track is literally the title track, Nookie Wood. It's just something about it. It's a weird and wonderful delivery vocal from John. It's quirky. It just, I shouldn't like it, but I do. December Rains. I love this. The middle bit is really interesting. It's dancey, but it's the middle bit that's really good. Mary, my second favourite track on it. It's just a wonderful ambient guitar piece with some nice lyrics. Vampire Cafe, very disjointed, not a fan of that. Morotha, it's got a really great voice effect on this, makes John's voice quite funny, but it really works. Living With You, very psychedelic. I like this. Very Velvet Underground for that one. Midnight Feast, wonderful ambience on this. The guitar work is fantastic. Sandman, Flying Dutchman, another great track. Great vocal from John. Great track to end this album. Really good album. Again, he just throw a couple of spanners in, but on the whole, it's a really good album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, we sort of move into his sort of early years now, and coming in at number 4, we have the debut album from 1970, Vintage Violence. So we got John Cale doing what he normally does, bass guitars, keyboards. Garland Jeffries on guitars, Ernie Corallo on guitars, Sanford Konikoff on drums. We've got Harvey Brooks on the bass and Stan Selzles on piano. First track on here is Hello There. I love this. I love the piano on this. Great vocal from John, and it's still got that sort of Velvet Underground vibe to it. Gideon's Bible is next. This is the first track you hear that he sort of sets this in stone of what sort you're going to get from John Cale. It's a very different vocal. It's an interesting arrangement. Really strong track as well. Adelaide, I like that. There's a harmonica on this, there's piano, and it's a very strong vocal from John. Very good. My favourite track on here is The Big White Cloud. Could have been on a Velvet Underground album. It's really good. It's sort of the contribution that John made to the Velvet Underground. Cleo is a very interesting track. It's got a nice keyboard sound to it. It's just a little bit different. Please is almost a country song. It's really nice as well. Then we have Charlemagne, Again, it's got a country feel to it. A really strong track. Bring Me Up, really good song with a lovely melody with some nice guitar work. Amsterdam, love this song. It's so gentle acoustic guitar, and back in the day John had a fantastic voice. Ghost Story, lovely keyboard, organ sounds, just another great track. And then Fairweather Friend, rocky sort of track to end the album. Excellent debut album from John. Some good rockers on here. Enjoyable album. Not a bad track on this album really. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. Okay then, coming in at number 3, we have the 7th album called Honi Soit, released in 1981, and it was his first album since 1975. So it's John Cale, in brackets Flight Surgeon on lead vocals, guitars, Jim Goodwin the gunner, in bell on brackets, keyboards and synths, Sturgis Nicadays the Hellcat guitars, Robert Mussery navigator, Pete Money wing and prop on bass, John Gatchell doesn't get a nickname on the trumpet, and the Bombardettes, member of the Modettes, on the backing vocals. Dead or Alive, I love the trumpet on here. It really adds to the track. John Gatchell, really nice sound. The Sunday evening sort of, the music's like a Sunday evening drama sort of theme. Strange Times in Casablanca, my favourite track on here, and definitely one of my top 10 tracks by John Cale. Love the guitar on it, it's crisp, and the keyboard is really good. Fighter Pilot comes next, good little track. The backing vocals on this are fantastic. Wilson Juliet, really nice backing vocals. Again, the drums are excellent on this. It's got that early 80s new wave sound on it. Streets of Laredo, it's a traditional song. Which was written in 1911, and it's about cowboys and things like that. Joan Baez and Johnny Cash has done this, but John Cale does a really good. It's a different interpretation what the normal covers are, but it's a very, very good version of it. I do like it. Then we have Honi Soit, La Première Leçon de Français. It's very Spanish. I love the horns. And then they get that new wave song. Very, very clever track. Riverbank. I love the guitar work on that. Very good. Russian Roulette, my second favourite on here. I love the guitar, and it's a typical John Cale vocal. Magic and Lies comes next, the last track. I love the piano. It's very gentle. Something you don't expect, but he goes into his more familiarity of his music. Another excellent album from top to bottom, solid tracks, good performance. So I'll give this one an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. So my number 1 and 2, this was difficult because I love these albums as equal. So coming in at number 2, we have the 4th album from 1974, Fear. And it's John Cale on singing, bass, guitar, keyboards and viola. Phil Manzera's on guitar, slide guitar. Fred Smith on the drums. Brian Eno on synthesizer. First track on this one is called Fear is a Man's Best Friend. One of my favourite tracks by John Cale. The dramatic start, it builds up, and some great piano playing here as well from John. Buffalo Bullet is another good track if I can get the thing to work. Really nice ballad. It's got the piano, the strings, fantastic vocal from John, one of his best. Barracuda, nothing to do with heart. It's really weird and exciting track as well. Emily, the blip on the album, bit dull and yeah, not one of my favourites. Ships of Fools, definitely top 10 material songs from John. I think I like the sound on it. It's a really good track. Gun, good track. The guitar is great. It's got some frenzy sort of in it. It's minutes long, but you don't think it's 8 minutes long. It goes so quick. Really, the track's filled out with some good little leads and breaks and everything. It's brilliant. Then my favourite track on there is that it's called The Man Who Couldn't Afford to Orgy. Probably one of my favourite tracks. It's a fun track. The vocals fun. The lyrics are fun. Really good track. Then we have another fantastic ballad, You Know More Than I Know. The acoustics on here are wonderful. It's a fantastic delivery from John as well. Then we have My Mama Scuba, the last track, very different. I love the sound on it. It's very solid bass line as well. As I said, if it wasn't for Emily, I think this would be my #1 album. It's got some wonderful tracks on here. It's a good balance of quirky songs, fun songs, serious songs. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. But in the end, I went for this one, and it's probably a lot of people's choice. #1 then, it is the third album from '73, Paris 1919. On here, John Cale doing the keyboards, viola, acoustics, Lowell George on electric guitars and acoustic, Wilton Felder on the bass, Richie Hayward on drums, Chris Thomas on tambourine, and the UCLA Symphony Orchestra do the strings, and they are conducted by Joel Druckmann Esquire. First track is called Child's Christmas in Wales. It's a bit of a Christmassy song. I like it, but it's one of them songs you can apply it to any time of the year. You don't have to listen to it at Christmas. Very, very good track. Then we have Hanky Panky Know How. I love the guitars on the strings. It's a really strong delivery on the vocals from John. The Endless Plane of Fortune. Wonderful use of strings. The acoustic guitar is wonderful on here. Then we have Angelica. I really like this. Again, we've got some lovely gentle guitar, a fantastic vocal from John. It's got that little bit of a country feel. Then we have my favourite track, and I think it's probably my favourite track by John as a solo artist, and it's called Macbeth. Very glam rock in places. It is really, that's probably why I like it. It's got a good beat to it. Excellent. Then we have the title track, Paris 1919. Great use of the horns. It sounds like it's just come off a stage of a musical. Graham Greene, written about an author. Great song. And it features no song features the place Chipping Sobri in it, but this does. Very quirky little song as well. Half Past France, some fantastic guitar work on here. Love the organ on this. Really adds to it. It's a great vocal from John as well. Antarctica starts here. Some sultry piano here from John at the beginning. It's just very gentle ambience and a great vocal from John. And it's a great track to end this great album. This is just the perfect album for me. It's a mixture of jolly songs, serious songs. The strings really work on this album. Some wonderful writing from John as well. It's just a fantastic album from top to bottom, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. So there we go, John Cale. And look out in the months to come for Lou Reed's solo stuff, another fantastic artist. So that's all for today, as this one's quite long, as it takes a little while to get it up on the channel. But we'll be back tomorrow, and we've got the first tie of the second round of Battle Royale. And it is Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band against Boston. And this round I'm gonna be talking more about the artwork and the people that created it but you still have to vote to see who goes through to the quarterfinal. So the first quarterfinal place is at stake tomorrow. So that's for that. And tomorrow we've also got a pick and mix, and it's in the camera's view. And this is a great little Rolling Stones concert box set called 4 Flicks. So that's all tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.